very recently, maybe a month ago, or just a little bit longer than that, the American Supreme Court struck down the affirmative action policy, that American universities have used for the admission process. See, for me, I like that. Yes, I do. Okay, I like that. I don't know your view, but I like that.
Yeah. When it comes to America and the issues they have around race, I don't think it's nearly as simple as the rest of the world. Because again, it requires a lot of research. I wouldn't say I have all of the answers or the knowledge, but based on what my understanding is a lot of American policies are actually, there's many of them that were the way they were created was to keep Black people out of, let's say, even the mortgage system, or there's so many systems that were purposely created to keep Black people out. So if that were true, I can understand why America had to make certain changes in order to bring things back to some kind of equilibrium, or some kind of to make up, as it were, for their history or their past. But when it comes to the concept of affirmative action in general, when it comes to America, I think it's honestly what we're seeing is reactionary. We've just seen recently the overturning of Roe versus Wade. We've just seen so many areas that they're just overturning what is, I think, reactionary to like the far left agenda that has risen up very recently. And so in order to combat that, we see the complete opposite happening, as it were. And this isn't new. It happened like decades ago when the far right were rising. And so all of this affirmative action was created. It's all reactionary. And again, if it all goes too far left again, or too far right, and they'll come back. So as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to America, it's a back and forth. It will be a back and forth until, I don't know, the entire collapse of the system. Because ultimately, my opinion is that all we're seeing is a decline of an empire. We only have these conversations when we see the end of an empire's reign. So really, I think that's really what the issue is here, is that there just really isn't much more to do. So in their society, they've done everything they need to do. They've done everything they could do. And so now what's left but for the fall of the empire?
Yeah. Ooh.
Like that, that's it.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. That's interesting. And maybe so. But see, why am I interested in that American system? Like you mentioned, we in Nigeria, for example, okay, even though the America never colonized any part of Africa, unfortunately, the rest of the world, okay, Europe, Africa, Asia, all of us have swallowed a lot from America.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, all the shows I watched as a young child are at least 80% American. At least 80% of American. Okay, from Sesame Street, all the cartoons, everything, So when it comes to affirmative action, we have a affirmative action in Nigeria, and for me, it has decimated Nigeria. When going to government secondary schools, they supposed to be the best government schools, okay, which you have to pass an exam to go to, you see the cutoff mark. They use cutoff marks per state, okay? And unfortunately, in Nigeria, your state is the state of your ancestors.
Yeah.
Not where you were born.
Exactly.
Not where you have been living.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a state who in the minds of the people who are supposed to know is supposed to be a good educational state, okay? Maybe out of 400, the cutoff mark of children from that state maybe 280, right? Now, if I'm a child whose parents come from that state but live in a state far, far away, I've never visited the state I'm supposed to have come from. All I've done is to live in the other state, go to school in that state, do everything in that state, but I will be judged by the cutoff mark of a state I have very little. I'm not associated to that state, not in any way.
Right.
Okay. The level of education I got is the same that every other child in that other state gets. Yet my cutoff mark 280, whereas the supposed indigene of that state who sits next to me in class 20 or 50, whereas 280 for me. Okay. Now, my issue is not about justice in injustice. That's not it. Like I told you last time, there's no equality in life. Okay, it doesn't exist in nature. But the point is this: so someone will go to that school, okay, with the score of 50, and we'll learn with somebody who scored maybe 200 or 300, and they will be taught in the same class with the same material, and they will be expected to cope with the standard of teaching. It's not possible. It's not possible. And what pains me is that we create so much mediocrity in a society. With affirmative action of any kind, we create additional and unnecessary inequality. That's what I see. African countries always talk about colonialism. That's why we're not doing well, blah, blah, blah. I say no. See, Singapore was colonized just like any of the countries in Africa. But what they did is to turn everything around by making everything
meritocracy.
Exactly. So see, that's what Singapore did. Merit. Okay. Affirmative action encourages some regions not to do, or some people not to do the best they can do, because they know no matter how poorly I do, I'm from my state, so I'll get the opportunity. Okay, so for me, that's why I was happy, because say, I don't know if I told you about my my adventure knowing Dr. Sowell, Thomas Sowell. Oh, okay. So I will tell you some other time. Anyway, okay. So Dr. Sowell has been talking about this for at least 40 years. Okay, more than that. When he was in Cornell, okay, he was given the assignment to recruit more Black people. Okay, and he was in charge of that, and he was doing it. And then he discovered that, no, if we give these people in opportunity which they didn't merit. Okay, so okay, let me correct myself. He said there are a lot of young people, Black people, who went to not the best secondary school, but they did well, okay, and they did so well that they can go to university. But then, if schools like Harvard, MIT, Cornell, the standard of teaching is different, because as a student, it's expected by the school that you are fast thinking and fast processing person, okay, and that's the way they teach, okay. They expect you to do so much extra work, all that. Now, these young people who didn't go to most of the people who go to these schools, this Ivy League school, have always learned that way. They go to the best schools and they teach them that way. Okay, so to put them together with young Black people from the inner cities, where they didn't teach them in a fast pace, okay, they cannot cope. Okay, and he said many of them enter and they drop out. Okay, that if they were allowed to go to schools that fit their standards, okay, they can now learn those things at their own pace and they will graduate more. But by forcing them to come to an Ivy League school, 1 year, 2 years, they flunk out. I have been saying that for a long, long time. And that's what still happens today. A lot of Black students coming to the schools on affirmative action and they flunk out. So it's not even the interest of the students. We're not saying that every Black person who goes to Harvard, MIT will flunk out. No. But too many of them do. So he and I would prefer to go to schools that fit that level of study, where they can learn and graduate and come out and enter the workforce.
Yeah, I absolutely see what you mean. I think that the concept of, based on how you described it, affirmative action in that particular scenario absolutely makes sense, in the sense that I've seen it happen in the UK like I work within the education system, even in the UK, and like they're looking at how they do that for like medical students, and people are freaking out because we can't have a different level of medical student. It's dangerous.
Exactly.
So I appreciate the reality of that situation, but I think then the onus is on the government or the system itself to then look at actions that we take from a younger stage. It isn't at university level that we try and say it's time for you to now by force let these people into the system, because like you just said, they will struggle. But I think the concept of affirmative action is, I think this is a lazy version of it, forcing a high-end university to take people in. What a serious government should really be looking at is how do we bring up more people that are at the level that they should be, so they can, like you said, rightfully get there. Yeah. I think that's what effective action should look like. Yeah. And but that requires work. That requires them to invest more money at a younger stage.
Okay, and that's what the people in charge don't want to do. They don't want to do the work at the foundational level to make sure they give more opportunity to everybody. Yeah. So
I think that's,
when it comes to, let's go back to Nigeria, that's where we need to focus on, to make sure people, no matter what the poverty level or of their family, they can go to school year 1 to year 12 with feeding, breakfast, dinner, breakfast, lunch, to make sure at least they learn something. So see, people don't want to go back to the drawing board, to the foundation. Okay, all we're doing is putting plaster on the wound, rather than break everything down, start from scratch.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, that's the reality of the education system, I would say, in much of the West. Even the current education system, I can speak more for the UK. COVID showed us that there's work to be done. The way that the system tried to figure out what your grade would be just based on the history of knowledge that they've had from other areas or the same area, and trying to just create some kind of patchwork option, just shows the reality of the UK education system, that it hasn't moved with the time. We're not building young people up for the future, and the UK will eventually have a similar problem if we don't start making changes. So it is a warning for many countries, many systems out there, that if you do not change, if we do not create a system that actually is building young people up for a future that we still don't know what it looks like, then societies will crumble. We'll see them crumble.
Yeah. It will.